alaikum. In today's video, I wanted to talk about some considerations before having a child, some of the discussion pieces that me and my husband had before we went on this adventure of having our daughter. These are just opinion-based. This is just to kind of incite discussion and to ponder on bringing a child into the world. These are not from a scholar. These are just my opinion on some of the things that we should consider before having a child. So let's get on to this video. So the first thing that I wanted to talk about, which is the most important, is intention. When we are about to get pregnant, when we want to start to have a family, it's really important to understand the intention on having a child and really making sure that it is with Allah, it is safeguarded with Allah, and Allah is the one who deeply knows why you want to have a child and is the reason of why you want to have a child. It is stated in the Quran that we are meant, there is a dua stated by Maryam's mom, may Allah be pleased with her, and she had stated that she wants this servant inside her to be of service to you, and so she made a calling to Allah that she wanted this baby to be of service to Allah, and ultimately to be a servant of Allah is the main priority of why we want to have a child, is that we feel in our weak selves that we are capable, in some strain in ourselves, some position that we feel that we are ready to try to raise a servant of Allah, right? So one of the things here that is really important is safeguarding it and make it between, like, that privacy between you and Allah. Every single day in my pregnancy, it was just this dedication, not every single day, but it's like this calling to Allah, like, please protect my baby for your sake, for your sake. It is really like an ultimate plea to Allah, and it should be that way when we are trying to cultivate the next generation, when we are trying to cultivate a good servant of Allah. It is a plea to Allah because only Allah could really help. So dua, intention is sincerely important. What I found was in pregnancy, when you get a pregnancy test, right away tests start to happen. You know, weakness of the body, throwing up, worry, things like it's a test as soon as you get the positive test all throughout your whole life with this child, inshallah. And so it's really important to find stability in that, and that's only through Allah. And with that, I mean, there is these positions in ourselves that can say, like, I'm ready to have a child because this and this and this. I'm ready to have a child because I'm so excited for my husband to be a dad. I'm so excited for me to become a mom. I'm so excited. And there's a lot to catch up on, right? It's a whirlwind. There's, our society is kind of focused on, like, the gender reveal and, you know, excitement, but it has to be rooted and grounded into something. So the second component here is vision. It's really important to cultivate with your spouse what you see, your vision for your family, not just for your child. So much of the time we could put so much expectation on our child. It's important to put expectation standards in the household, pillars on how you want your house to feel, things like what do we want to do for the ummah, what is our contribution to the ummah. These are big things to consider, to really visionize your lives in this dunya, how we are going to get to the hereafter. Vision is a key element here, and me and my husband discussed this off the bat. He had, you know, goals for what he wanted to do for the ummah. He had things, and we discussed, and it's really important. And a lot of couples tend to just dive into the norm, like, oh, just have children, you know, buy a house, get a job. Like, the third point is the act of improving oneself. This is one of the big pillars in how to feel like you're ready to have a child, or if you're in the position of having a child. It's really important to improve your spouse and yourself in the best way that you can. It's about really improvement in this stage, making sure that you're honest with yourself on things that you need to improve, accepting honesty from your partner. These are really key elements in order to really have a child. You really need to be honest with the things that you carry and that you want to improve on, because your kid is going to subconsciously get habits and characteristic traits from you and is going to subconsciously, bring that on to the next generation. And so it's really important to understand to cut it off here and finish with it. So I've had some really bad habits in my marriage, just how I was raised and how I came into my marriage. I had a lot of needment of improvement, and I still struggle to this day, but it's this act of wanting to improve for the sake of Allah and for the ummah, for my child. There's so many benefits in improving oneself. When you think about marriage, one of the things that often popped up for me is this triangle where there's two people and we're going towards Allah. This path is not easy. It is not just trials. It is just not big hardships that happen. It is literally building each other's character and following on the straight path and bringing each other closer to Allah. It is not necessarily that hardships do it. It's about, hey, this is something that you should improve on. Like, taking criticism is a way to get closer to Allah. This path is not easy to get closer to Allah. Like, confronted by things that are the hardest to improve on, right? Anger, being too, with our tone of voice, our laziness. These are things that are extremely hard to do, but are worth it, inshallah. I think about also my childhood and how my parents were just like, oh, that's how your dad is. Oh, that's just how your mom is. And it's just like they left each other to not improve. Like, it was just like, oh, well, that's just how it is. That doesn't show anything to us as kids. That doesn't show what a marriage is. A marriage is really about improving each other, right? We are mirrors as Muslim to each other. We need to start flaws are just not flaws. We can fix flaws. A lot of people think it's just like when you see a pimple on your face, you try to solve it the best way that you can. Sometimes it's really deep inside, an internal issue that's causing the pimple. The fourth thing to consider when having a child is the sphere of influence. The sphere of influence for your child. Me and my husband had thought about who do we want our child to be around. We decided from the beginning of our marriage that we didn't want to live with our parents. It was just not the best situation that fit us, but we also thought about our children and them getting influence from too many people all the time is not good. And for grandparents especially, to be blunt, they like to play with their children. They're done the parenting realm, so I knew that discipline would not be something that grandparents would be good at necessarily, and so I really wanted to make sure that we were her main source. And so if you guys are considering having a child, it's really important to think about, do I want, if we were to go back to work, who's going to be taking care of my children? Will they live up to our standards of how we want to raise our child? It's just really important because they soak up like a sponge, and if there's things that are not sitting well, it's really important to evaluate that. And so I just really encourage this, and even that's why people sometimes consider homeschooling. There's a lot in this formative years of 0 to 6. You have to think about the sphere of influence for your child, as it's quite crucial. Sphere of influence, another aspect here is outsourcing. So I find that as a mother, I tend to outsource food, or I tend to outsource this or that, but I don't outsource the direct communication that I have with my daughter. I don't just babysit because that's an easy thing to do. I make sure that I have certain standards for myself when it comes to what is replaceable for my daughter to learn somewhere else and what she can't learn from anywhere else. And so just kind of sorting through that as a couple before you end up having your child is really important to do that. So I'm going to get into the last two, and these are quite important. These are actually very, very important. The second last one is we need to really master what the Prophet ﷺ's secret sauce was for raising children. There are resources out there. There's so many narrations of youth around the Prophet ﷺ, parents coming to the Prophet ﷺ, and we need to dig deep into these instances, really analyzing these characteristic traits of the Prophet ﷺ, understanding his secret sauce. And we can find it through psychology. Like if you look at children's psychology books, that's okay to look through these books, but we have to filter it ultimately through his life. And I'll be putting some resources down below, but it's really important to cultivate, to understand his secret sauce on how he raised good children, because the Quran and the way of the Prophet ﷺ are the keys, and we have to really dig deep and do our research, inshallah. And the last thing is, what is love? Growing up, I had a lot of vacations and toys, and had a lot of these experiences, birthday parties, and to be honest, those don't define love. I wrote down here, and I say it so many times in my videos, but we have to understand children are a test. Children, money, power are tests. And we do love our children, don't get us wrong, but we cannot love tests in the way that we love Allah, right? We love the creator more than the creation. It's kind of like that in a way, is that we know that children are tests, but we are infatuated by children, meaning like we give them all the toys, the birthday parties, the vacations, the experiences, but they're molded into our lives too. We can't give them the world, They're planted and we're meant to teach them, but we're not meant to give them everything. And so I think I had to really analyze as a parent, what is love? What does spoiling our children mean? What are the boundaries, and where can I work within when we're looking at a test? Because ultimately, if it's stated in the Quran many times, I have to be wary. I can't just step into parenthood being like, oh my God, I love this. And it's really beautiful every single day. Like, I'm in love with my child, to be honest. But every day hardship does come to remind me that life's a test, and my child's bringing in all these things that are hard, things that we have to work through. So what I read somewhere was, your child's gonna ask, am I safe, and do I feel cared for, do I feel loved for? These things are really important. Safety, feeling love, not receiving love through gifts, feeling love, that feeling. And I also think about, as parents, I'm giving tools to my child. I'm not giving them the world, I'm giving them tools for the world. And so I hope that we can take that with a grain of salt, inshallah. I just wanted to come on here and really have a candid discussion about raising children, because it's a heated discussion for me because of my past as a child. You see your younger child and you wish that things were done for you that weren't. So it's a calling of like my inner child talking, no offense, but it's also like kids. It's just a very heavy topic for me for some reason. And so I hope that this is not like a pushy video, but inshallah we can have some discussions, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.